In today's episode, we answer three key questions. Are we sleeping less than a decade ago? Do sleep tracking devices help? What is the one frequent advice on sleep that has never worked? Manohar Gandhi grappled with insomnia, leading to a desperate pursuit for a solution. Despite consulting psychologists and resorting to anti anxiety pills, the issue persisted. It was through the discovery of meditation that he found a lasting remedy. While immediate relief was not forthcoming, his perseverance with meditation eventually alleviated his anxiety, resulting in improved sleep. His transformative journey is chronicled in his book, My Sleepless Nights, now accessible on Amazon. Having triumphed over his own sleep challenges, he now assists others in transitioning from restless nights plagued by anxiety to restful and tranquil sleep. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, I'm Deepa, light functional medicine practitioner, author and yogini, and you're listening to the Sleep Whisperer podcast, the only sleep podcast with conversations and meditations. I'm on a mission to share profoundly insightful sleep conversations with global visionaries that merge together functional medicine and ancient wisdom. Breathe in bliss through weekly guided meditations and let yourself enter the land of dreams. Together, let's unravel the pieces, get to the roots, and understand the right tools to transform your sleep completely. Through this podcast, I want you to dream the best version of yourself. It's time to regain hope and begin your sleep journey.
Manohar, welcome to the Sleep Whisperer podcast. A pleasure to host you today. And I know that I've really enjoyed lots of your posts on social media, and especially because you bring together a personal touch, and it's always interesting to connect somebody's story. And when I read the story about your daughter and how you got her past a little bit of fear, which all kids go through, I think you're a great person for your daughter to have in her life, because obviously you're gently guiding her through those reservations. I think we all have those, even as adults. Many of us, I think, stop from doing something because of reservation, fear. And you speak a lot about sleep. You've had your own sleep challenges. I know that you did have an experience where you probably were deeply frustrated with your sleep issues, and therefore you were seeking out even the help of a psychologist. But you did tell me that when you were put on anti-anxiety medication, that was where probably your journey started, because then you started to move down the path of meditation, and meditation such a wonderful tool. So tell us a little bit about your own journey and what prompted you to perhaps think that you want to do something beyond that first anti-anxiety medication, which so many people are put on as first step.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Deepa, and thank you for the great introduction. And we in this generation want everything as a quick fix, right? So, as a quick fix, we are conditioned to think that medication is the way to do it, wherein some pill goes in and restores our balance, kind of a thing. I'm not saying that they don't help, or to a certain extent they do help. I'm not saying they don't help. Like you rightly said, I went to a psychologist, and basically, psychologist is not someone who is supposed to give you any medication. Then, actually, my psychologist referred me to a psychiatrist, and when the psychiatrist saw that this actually, though I was having a problem of not sleeping, what he diagnosed was that I was on anxiety. He gave me anti-anxiety pills. So Like you rightly said, what happened was in this right? I very person who started googling stuff, and was thinking like I'll get an instant fix, which is like doing meditation now and immediately see the result. But that didn't happen. So it took its own time. I'll let me put it this way: I gave it up almost multiple times, and then I hopped from one form of meditation to other form of meditation. And then what happened was that my psychologist clearly told me one thing: it's not the form of meditation that matters the most. It is you doing it consistently and not attaching to the result. So that is the biggest thing which I had to do. So it is like, if I do meditation, will I sleep today or not? So if I attach to the result, right, that creates a lot of problem. So he just told me, just do this meditation for the sake of meditation. So that is what that big change happened. So yeah, and the big change is, so one thing I just want to say is, it was never a linear curve. So, for example, I want to go from Hyderabad to Bangalore. You may think that you'll just put on a Google map and you will see the destination. You'll see some intermediate checkpoints, but that doesn't happen when it comes to mental health. So you need to you progress and keep continuously doing the next side. Just do that, and then you'll see the other side of the. That's what I would say.
Tell me a little bit. I think you made some very valid points about, how we attach the goals, and that's what actually leaves us so frustrated because we are perpetually looking for the quick fix. Is this one thing going to fix this, or is one thing going to fix that? And is there a reason you feel that there is so much sleep disruption today? Because I really don't recall our ancestors having this level. I don't think we even discussed sleep challenges. Even just 2 generations ago with my grandparents, I can't even remember a single conversation where we're talking about. What do you think is the reason that there is so much challenges with sleep out there today?
Yeah, so I think the one of the biggest reason I feel is, like, I was reading this in I mean, from a TED talk, and basically the narrator says that one of the biggest change that has happened with especially this internet boom is, uh, we are actually working 24 by 7. You can say thanks to globalization or thanks to internet boom, we are working actually 24/7. So basically, I still remember my childhood days when I was 90s, right? So after 11:30, basically there was no program on the TV. So there was something like you had to end the day. But so that was a boundary which we had to set it, right? So I mean, in fact, in his book, Deepak Chopra says that before the invention of electricity, the sun was the only precursor to say that it's time to work. So if there was night, right, you had to just go to sleep, right? There was nothing else to do. But now what you have is, you have 24 by 7. So literally you can start at 10 p.m., start binge watching, and keep on till the complete night also. So there is no boundary which we are setting. So nature has a beautiful concept of the day and night, where it has created a boundary, which is the 12 hours. I mean, you can approximately say like 12 hours of daytime and 12 hours of nighttime, right? But where, if you see in all the creatures on this planet, right, everyone respects this boundary. So yeah, there are nocturnal animals and there are daytime animals. So they respect the boundary, so they follow the nature. But only human beings think that we can change something which goes against the nature. So I feel that is the biggest reason where things are going wrong, Deepa, is my opinion.
For sure, and I think that there is NIMHANS in Bangalore which looks at mental health, and they've started an entire wing for de-addiction from devices, phones, and I just think that as adults, if we are needing help with de-addiction from our device, what hope is there for our kids, especially when so much of schooling is now shifting to predominantly on the screen, which is, I feel, such a dangerous trend. But rightly said that I don't have the boundaries, so I have to enforce them for myself, and I have to leave my computer, my phone switched off after 5 p.m. in another room, so that I'm not tempted to switch on if I'm up at in the dark and just scroll. So I set those boundaries very rigidly for myself. Let's talk about sleep tracking, because I've had 2 episodes about sleep tracking devices, and I remember a client of mine who came for sleep issues, and one of the things he was so clear about was that he did not want to track his sleep because he felt it contributed to pressure and it contributed to a sense of stress in him. I just thought that was really good. And first of all, there are 2 aspects. So I want to ask you these 2 aspects. First, are sleep tracking devices really accurate? Two is, do we need the sleep tracking devices?
Yeah. So yeah, I think I come from a technology background. So almost 15 and a half years I have been into technology. So I'll just put it this way, Deepak, which is like every technology thing that has been done is an approximation or an estimation, and then it corrects itself, right? So just like you said, like the sleep disruption or anything, or as a matter of fact, the study about sleep is also in a very nascent stage, to be really honest. So the technology is also based on an assumption, and it's doing an assumption and an approximation, and it's refining and getting better and better. So that is what I would say. So having that sleep tracking device measuring your quality of your life is something that I feel is not the right way. And since you are an Ayurvedic practitioner, you know this inside out. Like our body, the complexity of our body is way, way, way far than any other device. And I don't think any device which is from the inside outside can measure something in the inside. So that is what I would say. So as far as tracking, I would say I would actually say like just like we use our mileage thing on our car, right? So we check the mileage and then we see like, okay, there is something which, so we need to service our car, or there is something problem. So that is the indication which our car is giving, or maybe you are using your clutch too much, or that those are the indications. Just use it to get those high level overview, but don't obsess over the results that these sleep tracking devices do. So, and as far as I know, none of them will be an accurate, and they cannot measure what is happening in the inside. Because the fact is, the previous question I was saying, like 12 hours and 12 hours, right? The fact is, the nature itself is not designed to be this way. So there is no 12 hours and 12 hours exact day and night. Only 2 days in a year. In the 365, when there is something called as solstice, that is when there is exact 12 hours and 12 hours. So one day you will need more sleep, one day you will need less sleep. And our body is having all the intelligence it needs to tell you. If you are basically, if you undersleep, right, your level of concentration will be less, and your body will give those indications. So learn to trust your body rather than any other devices. My take on this.
I love that. I absolutely think I resonate completely with your view that you are, of course, what I took is you did say that let's take the tracking as some high level information, but not get caught up. So, what I was hearing was you were saying that let's take it with a pinch of salt. However, I feel that for a lot of us, we are not capable of taking things with a pinch of salt, and it does add some stress. And I also resonate with your view that the body has such nuanced intelligence, and we really, one device cannot pinpoint that at all. So I really think that listening to your body, what you spoke about, how just, first of all, I love that you said every day we need different amounts of sleep, because this is not what we generally hear. There is a number attached, there is something for this is how it should be, and really each of us are influenced by so many things. So I like that you had that nuanced approach. But what's the one frequent advice on sleep that you feel has never worked?
Okay, so for me personally, that has. I'm not saying that this is a wrong information, but the minute you see on Google when someone saw, and in fact, even CBTI, which is considered as a de facto standard for insomnia, what it says is if you are lying on the bed for more than 15-20 minutes and you're not feeling sleepy, just wake up, get up, do something else, and then come back to bed. The biggest problem for me with this advice, Deepa, is first thing, yeah, I do understand what it's actually trying to tell, which is to think of something else which is not stressing and all. But like you said, right, we are so much addicted to technology. The minute anyone says a suggestion, like if you're not doing your bed or not sleeping for 15-20 minutes, so the minute what happens is we eventually and end up either reaching out to our phone or whatever may be the case, and or we turn on the light and do something. What happens is actually our brain gets conflicting signals, like instead of it's understanding that it's time to sleep, right, when we on the light, the brain doesn't understand that it's time to sleep. So that is something which for me it has never worked. In fact, what I do is, even though if I'm not able to sleep for 15-20 minutes, I still prefer sitting in the dark and trying to relax myself with breathing. So I just slowly slow down consciously my breathing. So I don't put so much pressure. So in fact, like I feel like sleep is one thing where if you try on some skill, like for example cooking, the more you try it, you get better at it. But whereas in sleep, right, the more you try to sleep, the harder it becomes to sleep. So that is what I would say.
I mean, I think our views are so much in sync that I have also always struggled with this. In fact, I had to actually tell somebody who I interviewed for CBTI recently, because I've done two episodes, one quite a while ago and one very recently. And I told the recent one that I'm glad you're changing my view on CBTI, because it has never appealed to me. This, first of all, the aspect that nothing matters and it just work on only through CBTI, that approach itself doesn't make sense to me, because obviously you might find meditation is very helpful. So I think that there's so many things, and for me it's all about offering people the widest range of tools and letting them feel what they connect with, and it could, anything could help anybody. And the second thing I think I really resonate with is that this concept of getting out of bed, the first thing I do when I do get out of bed like that is to come up and start checking, replying to emails, and it's ruined my sleep the whole night. So I think that practicing these tools in your bed, which is what I'm also doing these days, that if at all I wake up, I just sit in the dark, I meditate or do pranayama. And I think that our body has so much intelligence with this light and dark that we really shouldn't be getting out of bed. However, I understand the CBTI's underlying approach that you're trying to take the pressure or the stress associated with your bed, but I think there's so much more to change it. I have loved our conversation, Manohar. I would like for you to just leave us few minutes with maybe your top three takeaways. Like, how would somebody who's struggling with sleep, what would you say is the best way that they help themselves?
Okay, so first thing, the like I would say is, uh, yeah, I know. In fact, I work in the technology sector myself, and for any solution, the first thing I do is Google, right? But when it comes to mental health challenges, I would say, like, rather than trusting Google as your confident or you're I would say work go one-on-one, have those conversations. That helps a lot. That is what I would say. The second thing is what I would say is the biggest thing for people who are struggling with sleep is we talked about the concept of boundaries, right? So have an established boundaries. So I'm not saying like just apply the example like 5:30, just shut down anything, shut down your phone. But if it is 30, it's fine. But you tell your brain that it's time to shut it down and create a relaxation ritual, whatever maybe. It could be listening to music, it could be going for a small walk, it could be playing with your kids, it could be having your dinner mindfully, or it could be anything. So create one sleeping ritual. Basically what your condition your brain is, you're telling that it's time to sleep, and that actually matters a lot. And the third thing what I would say is the biggest thing or is like the brain actually doesn't understand between what is a real danger versus an imaginary danger. So work on things that you think are your danger, right? Whenever there is a danger, right, the brain will do anything and everything to protect you from the danger. And the biggest thing is many people have imaginary dangers. So work, is that danger real or is it imaginary? So, and I feel when you talk with someone who doesn't have that attachment like you have, right? So that makes a lot of difference. So that is why I said like having a discussion one on one with someone who has gone through that journey makes a lot of difference.
I think also, Manohar, one more thing I want to ask you, because you did tell me about in the right at the start about how you were changing meditations, and then you were advised that, just be consistent. So could you tell us a little bit about starting a meditation practice? Because to be quite honest, when I lived in the ashram, we would have this analogy all the time that rather than digging 10 wells for short for a little bit, try to build one, try to dig deeper in the same well, right? So for me, the apps used today, where there's so many types of meditation, which every day you're picking a different one, that doesn't resonate with my ashram background, because it's, while they are very nice, they are guided, but I feel that you're constantly changing the technique, or rather the path you are using for meditation. So what are your thoughts on starting a practice as somebody who's absolutely new to meditation?
Yeah. So, in fact, like I do agree with you, because actually, I started first with breath meditation, then I went to chanting meditation, then I went to some other form of meditation, and then finally I resorted to breath meditation. So the biggest change I did from the first time versus the second time, of course, like the attachment is one thing. The second thing, what I say, Deepa, is when you start on something, right? Never make it a very big. So for example, I was having a conversation with a guy, and he told like today night 30 minutes I'm going to sit for meditation. It doesn't work that way. Okay, so when you're conditioned to be in a chaos, right? So if you ask to sit for 30 minutes a day, it never works that way. So when you start, it doesn't matter. Even if it could be like 2 to 3 minutes of meditation, it's fine. But 2 to 3 minutes of meditation, do it consistently for 1 week to 10 days, and then increase it to like 5 minutes. So like the way I did it is the second time when I started, I just used to go with 5 minutes of guided meditation. Then after that 5 minutes of guided meditation I did for 1 week, then I went for the 8 minutes of guided meditation. The practice was the same, only the duration increased. Then I went to the 13 minutes of guided meditation, and then I went to the 20 minutes of guided meditation. And that is when I made it a habit that 20 minutes before going to sleep, I have to do this 20 minutes of guided meditation, the same meditation over and over and over again. And that is when things change. In fact, like there's a very beautiful story which I have mentioned in my book also. This is actually called as the Chinese bamboo tree. So what happens is someone plants this bamboo tree initially and some other tree beside it. So after 1 year, the bamboo tree doesn't grow at all. 2 years happens, it doesn't grow. 3 years happen, it doesn't grow. In the fifth year, it doesn't grow. So immediately what happens is after that it starts growing exponentially, 10 feet, 10 feet, 10 feet. So people wonder like why is it that these 5 years basically this bamboo tree didn't grow anything. But actually what's the beauty of nature is it's actually building its roots stronger, because it understands that when it grows exponentially, if without having strong roots you cannot survive. So the same thing with the results also. Initially it's all about the background work that happens, that is the roots are getting stronger, and that is when you stick to a practice, that is when results start seeing.
Beautiful story to end our episode with. Thank you for giving your time, and it was a lovely conversation. And I think you really, for me, the takeaway from our conversation is that you are talking about simple things, bringing it in, but being consistent, not getting caught up in the stress, doing whatever works for you. So thank you, Manohar, for coming and sharing your thoughts today.
Yeah, thank you, Deepa. I had pleasure interacting with you.
When it comes to sleep, Abhyanga, the ancient practice to soothe the nervous system, is a game changer. In my ancient Abhyanga masterclass, you can get frameworks to choose the right oil, massage with the right energy meridians, and create your own bath powder. Buy yours at www.ohahealth.com. Have a great day. This podcast is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subject matter covered in the episodes. The podcast is not acting in the capacity of a doctor or a registered dietitian and is not rendering any professional healthcare or medical service. The information in the podcast is not intended as a substitute for medical advice or services or as treatment or cure for any particular health condition. The advice and tools contained herein may not be suitable for your situation. Any medical questions regarding contraindications and cautions, or any questions on whether or not to proceed with any practices provided in the show should be referred to qualified health professionals before adopting the same. The podcast specifically disclaims any responsibility for any liability, loss, risk, personal or otherwise, which may be incurred as a direct or indirect consequence of the use of information from this podcast or the application, adoption of any of the information provided.